My pronouns are he, him, his.
Hello everyone, my name is Amma. I am a senator. My pronouns are she, her, hers, they, them, theirs.
Everyone, my name is Nick. I am the president, and my pronouns are he, him, his.
Hey all, I am Diego Wilson. I am he, him, his, and I'm a senator, and I'm a political science student here, and I would like to get into law in the future, but then go full circle, get into politics after.
Hello everyone, my name is Amy. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm a senator too. I'm so happy to see you.
And just for the sake of transparency, Caleb Peterson could not make it to this meeting, but he did submit proxy votes. So I have his email of proxy votes, which will come into play later, just so you'll know. But he does not count towards quorum, but it doesn't matter because we're going to get up to 6 senators eventually. So, okay. With that, we'll move into item 3 of the agenda, approval of the minutes from last meeting, which was on November 29th, 2018. These minutes were posted on WorkSync a few days ago, so I hope you all had a chance to review them. I'd like to remind everyone that these minutes are not verbatim transcripts of our meetings, but rather summaries to get the general gist of the meeting. Things will be left out sometimes, and I highly recommend that if you feel like something that was left out that's beneficial and needs to be on those minutes, please reach out to our communications director, Macy, at communications@my.lanecc.edu to get those changes made. So I'll open the floor to discussion and entertain any motions to approve the minutes from last meeting.
I move to approve the minutes from November 29th.
So there's been a motion to approve the minutes from our meeting on November 29th, 2018, made by Diego, seconded by Amma. Is there any discussion with the maker of the motion? And second? And everyone else?
Let's just vote.
Okay, we'll move into a vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes from our meeting on November 29th, 2018? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Vote passes 4-0-0. With that, we'll be moving into item 4 of the agenda, approval of the agenda. I will open the floor to discussion and any motions.
Question?
Yes.
The Unity letter of public signing, are we physically going to be signing this?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll read the motion that was made at the last meeting when we get into that too. Just for clarification on that.
If anybody has any other comments, I move to approve the agenda.
There's been a motion to approve the agenda made by Diego. Is there a second? Seconded by Michael. Is there any discussion with the maker of the motion? And a second? And everyone else? Okay. With that, we'll move into a vote. All those in favor of approving the agenda? Opposed? Abstentions? Vote passes 4-0-0. Okay. So, with that, moving to item 5 of the agenda, statements from the gallery. Each gallery member will be given 2 minutes. This is time for students at large to bring to the Senate their concerns and voice their opinions on ASLCC matters. The Senate and staff shall not respond to gallery statements. Senators and staff, if you wish to respond, please do so within your report or after the meeting personally. Lastly, I ask anyone that's speaking to address the chair. And then, yeah, so we had no one sign up. Is there anyone that wants to say anything before we move on? All right, sounds good. We will move into item 6 of the agenda, old business. We'll start off with 6A, the Unity Agreement Letter. The intent of this letter was to address what our organization went through last term, apologize, and then commit a commitment to moving forward. This letter was a collaboration within our team, started by Senator Caleb Peterson. So the way the motion was approved at the last meeting was Caleb moves to have a voluntary public signing of the Unity Letter taking place at the first Senate meeting of winter term and to be sent out to the torch and posted on our social media. So we have to honor the motion, and I'm going to pass this letter around to all student government members to sign. Voluntarily, though. And I'll read the letter afterwards.
Oh, this is for my government. And there will be an opportunity later for people that are not present to sign as well.
the back, the front, just on the bottom. Oh, I should sign too. So I believe everyone that is in student government that's here signed, so I'll just read the letter to you all now. And then this will be also going out to the torch and our social media later. To the students of Lane Community College, we hope this letter reaches you well as you finish up the last few weeks of fall term and start winter term. Just as you have been busy much of fall term, so has your student government. ASLCC accomplished a lot of amazing things this term. A few of these things include ASLCC fulfilled all students at large seats on college governance councils. ASLCC SG has continued to work on the expansion of student resources like the rainy day food pantry and no cash clothing stash on campus. Additionally, ASLCC SG has worked tirelessly on other projects relating to visibility, accessibility, sustainability, and other coalition building projects with various other non-student governmental student groups on campus. Despite our successes, it is no secret that we've had our fair share of challenges this year as we have adjusted to our roles as student representatives. ASLCC SG is a governing body that is making important decisions every week on behalf of students at large at Lane. All of us are bringing very different viewpoints and fields of experience to the table. There is bound to be contentions within our impassioned politics, and we acknowledge that. ASLCC SG deeply apologizes to anyone who may have witnessed these disagreements and any work that may have been impeded on because of these disagreements. ASLCC SG holds our core values of integrity, equity, respect, diversity, accountability, transparency, and sustainability to high importance. ASLCC SG is committed to seeing these values expressed in the work we do in the spaces we hold. Going forth, ASLCC is committed to unity. As we wrap up this term, our focus is on various committee work, rebuilding our team, and doing our best to support our students through finals and the holidays and into winter term. We look forward to the rest of the year with you all. Yours, Associated Students of Lane Community College Student Government. So with that, we will move into item 7 of the agenda, new business. We'll start with item 7A on the agenda, vice presidential appointment. On January 8th, 2019, I officially appointed Amadeo Rabine to be the vice president of ASLCC SG. The qualities I'm most looking for out of a vice president is someone with extensive institutional knowledge of our organization, someone with strong communication and facilitation skills, an effective meeting facilitator, and someone who I know will provide encouragement and support to myself, the Senate, and my staff, but especially the Senate, because that is the role of the vice president. I have no doubts that Amadeo can live up to these expectations, as Amadeo has been a very active part of our organization last year and this year, and started and completed a lot of impactful work last year that I got to see firsthand. I thank the Senate for their consideration of Amadeo Rabine as vice president and look forward to potentially getting to work with Amadeo in this role. We will now hear a statement from Amadeo, and after that I'll open the floor to discussion and questions from the Senate.
Hello everybody, my name is Amadeo Rabine and I use he, him pronouns. So I'll be reading a little statement. So I'd like to thank Nick Hugh for appointing me as vice president. It means a lot. But more importantly, I'd like to thank you all for your consideration. That means a lot more. I'd like to take my time before the Senate and the people of the gallery to speak on the matter of my appointment. I believe that it is the duty of elected officials and student representatives to be transparent and honest. Oftentimes, preparing for a situation behind closed doors can leave you ready to talk about things in public. But forgetting to bring everyone up to speed can leave people at different levels of understanding. Throughout the previous president's time leading both staff and senators, I felt that many conversations were had behind closed doors, rehearsing conversations and giving unfair advantages to people. It is ultimately routines like this that led to me being appointed a vice president over the winter break before Bly Levin announced her leave. I want to be transparent that this scenario came about due to all parties wanting to ensure a sound transition of their roles. But this lack of communication to the team has ultimately led to this situation right here being the second official conversation about my appointment, and first for some, at least with me being present. I am ultimately prepared to give this speech and my qualifications, but I have no idea if others in this room are prepared to question me. I bring this up to demonstrate that student government and Senate in the upcoming term should be led by someone with a more direct and forthright voice. You should be led by someone who is dedicated to seeing the success of every discipline, union, and club we have on our campus. Someone who is able to understand that while we must prepare for discussions in a civil and respectful way, there must be respect for the process and allow everyone to take full part. I would be honored if you considered me as your vice president. In my time working by many of your sides, I have seen nothing but growth. Many of you have changed drastically since the beginning of fall, and all of you for the better. I see the potential to help you all blossom further, and for this learning opportunity to better you all just as you have done to me. I believe that while I may not have the Senate history of many of our previous vice presidents, I have the experience with conflict resolution, public speaking, management, team building, and exactly one committee that I successfully chaired. My goals, as many of you know, are focused on students. I want to directly be involved in the aspects of our campus, encouraging each of us to get out of our comfort zone and reach into the different buildings, clubs, groups, and unions. I want to support events and actively represent the activities and lives of people at LCC through our existence. I think we can do our work, and we can do it better. I want to streamline our processes and better delegate so that senators and staff can better achieve their goals. And I also want to feel like I'm routinely helping students of color, LGBTQ students, and disabled students at LCC. I'd like to see surmountable change by finding ways to mix it into the programs and projects that we have going on. Lastly, and just as importantly, I want to see senators succeed. I want to work with the Senate so that the rest of this year can be just as well as you've dreamed and hoped, and that we can get to representing students. I know when I stood here last, I told all of you that I was leaving and I had had enough of the school's pain and bigotry, but I have done a lot of thinking on that. And after being asked if I would be Mr. Keogh's vice president, I can imagine no greater honor than getting to serve the students at such a personal level like I've always wanted to, and getting to work with this team for the rest of the year. So I thank you all for your time and for your deep consideration.
Thank you. So I'm going to open the floor to any questions and concerns you may have for Amadeo. Just so you all know, just so we're clear, questions cannot touch on any protected class information. You cannot ask if someone's married, if they have children. We cannot talk about political or social ideologies. These questions are illegal, so I would please refrain from asking these questions. If you do, I will have to shut it down because it's illegal. And then, so yeah, I'll open the floor and take a stack for anyone that wants to ask Amadeo a question or has any concerns for Amadeo. Anyone want to start us off?
How much time do we have?
Just like 2 minutes.
Okay.
So Michael first. Diego, did you want to jump on there?
Yeah.
Do you want to say anything?
Sure.
Okay. Amy, do you want to say anything?
He looks like a nice guy.
Okay. So we had Amy go first. So we'll hear from Michael.
All right. And Sean as well.
Okay. Someone just has to add it. Or
Gotcha.
Okay, somebody wants to yield time again.
Okay. Amadeo, I met you during our ASLCC summer retreat. Already, I was impressed with how knowledgeable you are and with just about every aspect of student government. We talked about our during the retreat's breaks and got to better know one another. We discussed our mutual Hispanic heritage, but also how the fact that us being white appearing gives us a privilege that many do not. You emphasized how important it was to be an ally for those that don't have that, and that's something that still circles in my head every day, especially every time I walk on campus as a representative of our students. Your involvement with both the GSA and being our gender, sexuality, diversity advocate has made a great impact and one that was immediately missed when you resigned. Quite frankly, I don't have any questions for you. Quite frankly, it's wonderful to see you again. Asking you any questions would feel like the student quizzing the teacher and not the other way around. You are very aware of the issues that need to be addressed at LCC. I believe you are the vice president this organization needs and that our students on campus need.
Thank you. And I had Diego next.
Similar to Michael, I don't have any direct questions, but rather just want to comment. I've had nothing but outstanding conversations with you. Last term was tumultuous, as it was put in the torch. And, well, throughout all that, you were completely civil and understanding and diplomatic. I had many occasions where I thought, I wish Amadeo was handling this, because it would have been different. Well, we're getting that now. And I look forward to having you as vice president, should that come to pass.
And next, Alma.
All right, like everyone else has said, I have no direct questions for you, but rather a comment as to what I've seen. I've seen nothing but amazing support that you have for our student government, and I couldn't be more happier to have that. And I yield the rest of my time to Shauna.
Hello. I'm going to ask some questions that should not reflect a lack of confidence in your ability as a person or in your institutional knowledge here, just to get transparency out for everybody. I'm under the impression that you graduated from LCC last term and you have a degree now. Is that correct?
Yes, I am. I actually got 2 degrees, and then I found out that I was only a few classes away from getting my 3rd degree, and that's why I enrolled in a physics class and 2 PE classes so that I could get closer to getting an Associate's of Science degree transfer.
Well, that eliminates my follow-up question. Why were you here? And you nailed it, so good. A second question, you touched on in your introduction. I just want to make it clear that the opinion you have of LCC when you left isn't going to create a contentious relationship with advisors, staff, anybody who we're going to be working with from the college because you had a less than stellar experience with the college. I'm hopeful that we can have a smooth relationship with them until it becomes a point where we absolutely can't. It's kind of a political, social, maybe you shouldn't answer it. Yeah, you've already addressed it. There's no need to address it again.
I think I can answer that.
Okay.
That is one of the things that I was concerned about, and I spoke freely with actually Mr. Keogh in one of our meetings when Nick said that he wanted to actually actively improve student government's relationships with admin and just college administration in general. And I mentioned, my rocky feelings towards the school as a whole. I don't think I can, in good conscience, block that because I care about students. And that would ultimately damage students. If I'm getting in the way and allowing my issues to surface, then I'm hurting students. I can always put aside my issues. The only time I can't put away my issues is if I know that it's a situation or an admin that is actively hurting all students. So I think that I can actively know that this institution is damaging and hurting students of color and queer students. And then I can also try to work with them as people and each person that I meet to try and make it a better place. I think that that's something I can do. a challenge that I have as a person. But it's something I've been thinking about since that meeting that we had where Nick was like, no, it's something that I want to do, and I think that you can do it too. But it's a good question.
Thanks for taking the question.
Yeah.
Any other people? Amy?
Yes. Before I talk, I will yield my time to Brian.
Okay.
I just want to say that I've interacted and known Amadeo for, I think it's probably close to 2 years here at Lane at this point. And he is one of the people who I will value my interactions with for years to come after I graduate from here. A big part of coming to Lane was coming from a very small town originally and not having a whole lot of diversity in meeting people, and I feel like those interactions are a big part of the value of coming to college and learning to meet people. He has all of my respect, and I just have one question based off of some of the contention that has happened in the last term, just to have it on record. What is your opinion of the role of the vice president as chair during Senate meetings?
Oh yeah, I was actually hoping this question would be asked. Okay. I had my own feelings when it was originally answered by the past vice president. I think that the role of the chair, first off, is something that should be defined by Senate and the chair behind closed doors, first off. You should work with your Senate as a vice president to find out how that's going to work, because when you get out to Senate, it should be sort of like a show that's like working pretty like an oiled machine. So you're going to want to find out what your team works. But so that, first off, I think that it should. So that's kind of my like wishy-washy answer. You want to work with your team, find out what they want. But personally, I think that a chair needs to sit there and direct the flow of conversation, kind of quietly, not really involve themselves too much, because you're facilitating conversation, right? People wait to be acknowledged, you acknowledge them, you keep track of conversation, you keep track of time, you tell people like, okay, we got 5 minutes left in this conversation, we gotta keep going. You don't allow your personal convictions to get involved. And then, oh gosh, I'm starting to get, no, but I think that the overall most important thing about a chair is that you're supposed to, is that you're really supposed to make sure that everyone gets heard. I think that's really where my problem is there, is that you really aren't supposed to really have any personal opinion in there, besides making sure that maybe you don't call on that person who's been talked to. Maybe that's the one part where I would disagree with other people's opinions on a chair. You might just be you might see 3 people have their hands raised, and you might go to the person who hasn't been speaking a lot. But that's my opinion on a chair. And that's maybe something that would change if you talk with your Senate and you find out that it's no, we want to go on whoever raises their hand first. But I just think that a chair, I think that there's 2 sides to a vice president, and you find out how the chair side of the Senate, the vice president's going to work behind closed doors, because you want the Senate show to look nice. So that's a really awkward question. I know I said I was prepared for it, but
No, that's a
words.
great answer.
One question for you. So you mentioned that you had chaired a committee last year.
Yes.
Can you just explain a little more about your experience with that, and what committee was it?
Yeah, I chaired the Inclusive College Committee, and it was a really wonderful committee. It was really freeform. It wasn't, didn't adhere to Robert's rules in any way that you'd sort of know them. We had general form, sort of acknowledge, not choose to acknowledge. Sometimes we would vote and people would talk during the middle of a vote. But the most important part of it was really that I did have to facilitate conversations sometimes. When it started was halfway through, it started halfway through fall term, and we achieved the goal of putting on a really great event that highlighted how students care about each other. We put on an event with the Sustainable Students Committee. and we gave awards to students and teachers to highlight exemplary traits that we see in them. And my time chairing that committee, even though there weren't that many people involved in it, was really just trying to get each person to come out of their shell and be confident enough to share their ideas in that space, because we had a lot of really confident people in that space, including myself, and some other people who didn't often feel so great about sharing their voice. So it was really a balance of making sure that we heard everybody's opinions. So my time in there, even though it didn't follow the same strict rules as the Senate, was how I would see myself facilitating. Is making sure that I'm not stepping on toes, but I am making sure that everyone's voices are heard, so that we come to the same diplomatic results.
And with Diego next on this.
If there are no other comments,
I think I wanted to make it. I mean, I wanted to ask a question. So, at the beginning of this meeting, I clearly mentioned that I was happy to see you. It's been a while that we haven't seen the room full like that. I just wanted to ask you, what do you plan to increase our visibility outside, like make sure that more students attend our meetings? So, yeah.
So I'm in a walk jog class, and I mentioned that, you know, I had been involved in student government, and they were like, it wasn't the usual, there's a student government, but it was like, you've been a part of student government? What's the point of that? What do you, well, what's even the point of doing anything there? We kind of got to talking about it, and then they were kind of miffed, and they were like, well, I mean, like, I'm a part of a student group, and like, I just don't even understand the point of like really showing up for you all if you don't show up for us. And I think that would be my first goal. It's kind of not mandating really, but sort of encouraging senators and staff, but mostly senators, to sort of, like I said, bridge and like diversify our reach, like go out to other things. Maybe we would go to some more of the theater group shows, go to more sporting events. Like just go to more of the things that are happening on campus and show our faces, and not just say, hey, we're student government, but just to see what's happening. And maybe you have a conversation, and the normal, natural conversation comes up, like, hey, what are you doing on campus? Like, what do you do? And you're like, oh yeah, I do student government. It always comes up. People always are trying to find out what to ask, and then you tell them, like, I'm in student government, and then they tell you what they're doing, and then you go to what they're doing, and then they go to what you're doing, and then you find a love for the things that they're doing on campus, and then before you know it, you're facilitating this wonderful, like beautiful, like growth of like campus love, and like that's what I would try to do. That's how I found the best way to get people involved in student government and involve myself in other aspects of student life, is just asking people what they're doing and showing up.
Thank you.
Was there any further questions? I'll open the floor to any motions.
I move to ratify Amadeo Rayline as our new vice president.
There's been a motion to ratify Amadeo Rayline as our new
Second.
vice president, made by Diego, seconded by Ama. We'll start with discussion, or the maker of the discussion. Start with discussion with the maker of the motion.
As of before, it's still true. I'm very excited to see you in this new role. I think it's a good omen for good things to come.
And the second.
I look forward to having you as our new vice president.
And further discussion? Okay, and before we move into a vote, I just want to, for the sake of transparency, I do have proxy votes submitted by Senator Caleb Peterson, so those will be counted as well in the vote. And then additionally, if the vote does go through, for the sake of just keeping this meeting moving along and like not having an abrupt change in chairs, I'm just going to chair the meeting until the end, and if Amadeo is ratified, he will start next week chairing, so just for the sake of transparency. But with that, we'll move into a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Vote passes 5-0-0, counting Caleb's vote for a yes. Congratulations, Amadeo. We're super glad to have you on the team.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Again. With that, we'll move into item 7B of the agenda, pro tempore appointment. The role of this position is to practically act as the assistant kind of, to the vice president and help oversee the Senate. Additionally, the pro tempore is responsible for running meetings when the vice president is unavailable. So how this will work is, first I'll open the floor to nominations. Nominations will be made. If someone's nominated, they have to accept the nomination. And then each nominee will be given a few minutes to speak on themselves. And then I'll open the floor to further discussion and motion. So first I'll open the floor to any nominations for pro tempore.
A question / nomination.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember from our meeting on the 29th, did we already appoint or nominate?
So there was 2 nominations for Michael Gillette and Caleb Peterson. That the Senate ultimately tabled that, and we didn't come to a decision on that. And then Caleb withdrew his consideration for presidential pro tempore. But yeah, so we just need to go through the process again of nominations. And that.
Right. Well, I will nominate Michael again for the position of pro temp.
Do you accept that nomination?
I do.
Okay. Is there any further nominations before we move into discussion? Okay, so Michael will give you 2 minutes to give a statement on why you will be an excellent pro tempore.
Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Gillette. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I am one of your senators. I represent you, and it has always been my goal to look out for and protect the students here on campus. I am an honors student here on campus. I am a part of Sigma Chi Eta, which is our honors communication society here on campus. When I campaigned for being elected as a senator, my words were, I want to see us achieving dreams together. I said this because I've noticed on campus, and even our country at large, was an increasing polarization of opinions and viewpoints. More and more we seek to build walls rather than building bridges. My goal on both a personal and political level has been to tear down these walls and bring us all together. I nominate myself, well, I don't because Diego did, for the position of pro tempore as another opportunity to be further involved with helping our students. I have been present for every meeting and every work session in student government, and I take this opportunity and privilege very seriously. I always strive for the middle neutral ground in order to ensure everyone is treated fairly. I strive to help push for the equity we all need and deserve on campus.
Thank you. So I'll open the floor to any questions that the Senate may have for Michael.
You have my time to Shauna.
Shauna?
So, Michael, with the pass of our present organization, our pro tempore that was nominated last is suddenly our president. I want to make sure that if events happen in a similarly catastrophic way, you're prepared to step up and do everything you need to do to keep us trucking.
That is, I know we hit quite a few snags in the process in our government last term, and my goal has always been to make sure that we're moving forward, that we don't get stuck in the small nuances and rather keep ourselves focused on the issues at large here on campus and making things happen. I will say that I do favor and prefer to stay within the Senate, but like you're saying, if the situation does arise and were I to be appointed in the VP position, and things kind of take a deja vu turn and the responsibility is needed to fill that position of presidency, that I am ready and willing to accept that.
Yes.
Is there any further questions? Any motions, concerns?
So this was, this is what I was wondering about. I seem to remember we already nominated you, which would then clear us to go ahead and ratify you in this meeting. Is that a fair enough assessment?
He was nominated previously with Caleb at the last meeting, and then that was tabled, and then now we're at this meeting, and he's been nominated again, and so he's been nominated again, so there can be a vote on it now. That's what you're wondering.
Yes, that's what I was wondering. Okay. Well,
We just won't get the debate that everybody, I'm sure, was ready
popcorn debate,
to
right?
see happen between Caleb and I.
Anybody else want to make a motion? I've been making all the motions.
Looks like a step up here. All right. Is it to ratify him as a pro tempore?
That would be the appropriate motion.
All right. So, with the agreement of the gallery, I'm going to make the following motion. I move to ratify Mr. Juliet Michael as the pro tempore of our student government.
Okay. There's been a motion to ratify Michael Gillette as the presidential pro tempore of Senate, made by Amy. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alma. We'll start with discussion with the maker of the motion.
I think that I'm not going to make a long speech, but I believe that you can do the work, and from the answer that you gave to Shannon, I endorse you, so, yeah.
And with a second? Any further discussion?
I'll make a comment. Michael, you have been nothing but outstanding throughout everything. We got into some hot water last term when I first met you at the retreat. I knew right away you were a straight shooter, and that you are a man of your word, and you think for yourself no matter the situation. I look forward to, if should this situation ever arise, you need to step into the seat of chair or vice president or president. I think you will do an outstanding job of leading by example.
And I'll say something as well. I have full confidence in Michael filling this position. And you know, before this meeting today, Michael was texting me and was like, I'm printing out agendas and stuff, and he's not even the pro tempore yet. So I have confidence in him, and I know he can do the work, and he's already tried, even though it's too soon. But maybe he can try that next week. So with that, we'll, oh, and then also I have a proxy vote from Caleb Peterson for this as well. So with that, we'll move into a vote. All those in favor of ratifying Michael Gillette as the presidential pro tempore of Senate? Okay. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Vote passes 4-0-1. Congratulations.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, with that, we'll be moving into item 7C of the agenda, NWSLC funds request first look. So NWSLC stands for Northwest Student Leadership Conference. It is a conference that we send students to every year, and it's a really great conference for students to learn leadership development skills, network with other students, other student leaders across the state of Oregon. And it's just a really great time, and then they can bring that, what they learned back to campus and spread their knowledge. So just to remind everyone, there won't be a vote held on this agenda item. This is simply just a first look. When we're considering passing large amounts of funds such as these, it's important that we are really thorough and ensure that the student money is being appropriately used. So each person should have a copy of the funds request and also the updated budget for our projected budget for NWSLC. So I will open the floor to just concerns and questions anyone has, and then we'll take a look at this further in work session, and we'll look at it again next week. So let's just keep this at 10 minutes for the sake of time. Does there anyone have any questions about this, concerns? I'll take stacks, starting with Diego.
Yeah, I was looking at the funds request, and nowhere on here does it say when it is. What point, when is this need to be decided by? I'm just gonna just throw it out there, you know.
So this conference is going to be February 16th to the 18th, and then on the 19th there's going to be a lobby day. That's going to be planned. Okay, no, the lobby day is on the 18th. The lobby day is on the 18th, so they're kind of like being co-put together this year, which is awesome. So yeah, that's a good question to have. So I'm gonna write down add date event.
I did a follow-up comment, I just wanted to get that answer
And then I
before I
have a few
started.
down.
So I see here on the updated budget, it's got two sections, one for 10, one for 15. And I see the funds request is for 10 people, so we're just being conservative with the funds request.
And that's also another thing we can talk about right now is 10 or 15. I'll say personally I'm leaning towards 10, but whatever y'all think too is, we want to hear that as well.
So historically, my understanding is when a funds request is approved, specifically with an OSA event, that money is being allocated, period. And if we fail to reach that 10 number, if we don't have 10 people that go, the money doesn't come back, it's still gone. Is that true for this event? Is a question I guess I have, generally speaking.
And Gabby, feel free to jump in on this like anytime. Do you have any information on this?
So registration doesn't come back. Generally, up to 24 hours in advance, we can cancel housing, barring people like just ghosting on the actual, everybody's getting in the van and they just don't show up and don't tell anybody that they're not coming. I don't know, you have food here. I don't know whether or not that's like a prepaid thing per person or not. But generally the stuff that we prepaid to the convention does not make its way back if people don't take advantage of it. But things like housing and travel, if we, some tickets, or like if we have to take less vans, then we just take less vans. But there is a chunk of it that does not make its way back.
And Michael?
Almost just lost my train of thought. Well, actually, I wanted to yield half my time to Ryan and half of my time to Shauna.
Okay, Shauna, you want to start us off then, right?
Sure. The last event that we approved money for, I just wanted to remind everybody that we approved a large sum of money for a large number of people that didn't wind up getting fully utilized, didn't wind up getting half utilized. There's been a lot of talk about making sure we get some sort of more legitimate confirmation from people before we pay for them to go to an event. So having people sign up for, as Ryan has suggested in the past, a travel agreement, just knowing what you're getting into, saying yes, let's do it, getting their name on the list, I think is a good step to make sure that we have that commitment before we volunteer the money to send somebody to the event.
Shauna covered some of it. I made sure to print out a copy of the LCC travel agreement. It's the last 2 pages. The first chunk of it is mostly just I understand what I'm doing. It's been sporadically used. Those of you who went to the retreat should be relatively familiar with it. From perspective of what happened with the last event, I don't really doubt that we can get 10 people, but what I would really like to see is that people willing to fill that out and then making the decision on how much we're going to budget for it based off of how many of those we can get filled out. Because that agreement, it has, I don't expect that it has a clause in there that if you basically just blow it off with no warning and don't give us time to replace your thing, we can charge you for the amount of money that we spent. Which is kind of an indication that you're serious about going. I don't expect that the college is going to pursue $145. I don't expect ASLCCSG is going to pursue, $145. But the fact that it's in there and that it's a possibility is the sort of thing that would cause someone to think about whether or not they're legitimately serious about going or only kind of serious about going. And what I would really like to see with future travel like this is that before it comes to a vote of we're going to send this many, we have a pile of, this many people have been willing to sign this travel agreement. And then we can budget for a few extra last minute registrations. The difference between early registration and late registration is $10 per student. So if we find ourselves in a situation where even one person doesn't show up for the early registration, it's the equivalent of 14 people who would have gone in cost had we registered at the late registration date. So I would just kind of, as the treasurer, like to see a little more firm commitment before we decide how many people we're planning on sending to any of this travel.
Any more questions, concerns?
I did want to second your feelings on that. You literally used the two words that first came to mind, which was commitment and accountability. And I think that the form kind of helps with that. In the very bottom of the form itself, it says the form is both an application to attend and a contract of accountability. So it just helps better ensure that the money being spent is going to be properly utilized and we're not just losing money in ways that we could easily avoid if we just have people do this.
Any further discussion? Okay. Well, that was really helpful and insightful, and that's exactly what I wanted out of this. So we'll keep thinking about this, everyone, and we'll consider all that advice, and at work session, we'll look at this again. And then, of course, it'll be on the agenda for next Senate meeting as well. So thank you, everyone, for your Okay, with that, we'll move into item 7D of the agenda, staff position discussion. As you all may know, we currently have 4 open staff positions: the gender and sexuality diversity advocate, the multicultural program coordinator, the state affairs director, and the sustainability coordinator. These positions are vital to our organization's success, and we need to fill these positions very soon. So to do that, we have to open the positions, and that has to be done by the Senate. So I will open the floor to discussion and entertain any motions.
Yeah, I'll go ahead.
Michael, and then
Are we just, do we want to discuss right now?
yeah, let's definitely discuss before anything else. So Michael and Diego.
With regards to discussion, I did have on our list of, or at least personally, goals that I'd like to see student government accomplish, which is to fill all of our staff positions, to ideally fill all these available seats in our Senate, so that we can be as fully functioning as possible, and to also ensure that we have the diverse perspectives of as many students as possible. So I do think it's really important that we get these positions open and as soon as possible so that we can get everything back on track in our government.
And Diego. I'm going to throw myself on set.
For the time being, my understanding is any major changes we wish to make to the structure has to go through a referendum if it's going to be on the Constitution. But as for the bylaws, we are able to edit those ourselves. And that's a little wishy-washy, I'm not sure about that. But I know that there has been a lot of discussion, at least I want to say work sessions, that some of these positions could be merged and or changed entirely in title and function based on what we've seen in the past. But for the time being, this is not a question for the Senate, we are going to open all of them as they are currently. Is that correct?
That is the intent. And then we also need to talk about what we've been kind of talking about, the splitting of positions and how that goes into this conversation as well. So were you going to say anything about that?
About the splitting positions, yes, as well as the past 2 positions that have been open. I just want to make sure it's on the record that we're not dismissing the applications we got during that period in favor of new applications. We don't have any applications from the past, is my understanding.
Okay. Does anyone want to yield some time to Shauna? Michael?
I give my time to Shauna.
Thank you.
So at our last Senate meeting, we opened the position for GSTA and PC because we knew they were going to be vacant. Please do correct me if I'm wrong, Liz or Nick, because I don't have access on WorkSync to see any incoming applications, which you probably should fix, but that's neither here nor there. As far as I understand it, we don't have any currently valid applications that were during that 30-day period for us to take in people to hire these positions. So, assuming that is accurate, reopening it makes a lot of sense. If it is not accurate, we do have a position and somebody applying for it, I just want to go on the record saying we need to give them a shot before we open it up to new applicants, just for the sake of being fair. On the splitting of positions topic that Nick touched on, our last sustainability coordinator had their hands full with just the food pantry. We had a lot of sustainability events that fell on the shoulders of our clothing stash and to an extent to our snack shack organizer as well. This is work that could be done by a separate position of the sustainability coordinator if we were to split off the food pantry responsibilities into their own position, which will have a full-time position, full-time as far as our staff is concerned. Just handling that unit and keeping it running smoothly. So that's my hope, is that we can get that position split into two distinct sets of responsibilities.
Yeah, and then to just address the first part, there was an applicant for one position, GSDA, but they like withdrew their application. So we're clear there. And then the splitting of positions, the Senate has been talking about this a lot in work session, and it seems like it's like something that the Senate is definitely like in support of, and a lot of other student government members as well. And I could definitely see the value in this position being split up, and like our sustainability work receiving some more like directed focus. I think for the meantime, to open the positions, I think we should just open the positions as we know them now, and then we can continue to talk about creating that position and splitting it off in the rest of the term and work sessions and stuff. But I think for now, we should open them as they stand. So was there any further questions or discussion, stuff like that?
I'll just wrap it up. I move to reopen the Gender, Sexuality, and Diversity Advocate position, the State Affairs Director position, the Sustainability Coordinator position, and the Multicultural Coordinator position for 30 days or until filled, whichever comes first.
There's been a motion made by Diego to open the Gender and Sexuality Diversity Advocate position, the State Affairs Director position, the Multicultural Program Coordinator position, and the Sustainability Coordinator position within 30 days or until filled. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Amma. We'll start with discussion with the maker of the motion. And the second?
It would be beneficial to have these positions filled.
And further discussion? Michael?
Just to clarify, is there any other positions that are still unfilled?
No. Well, Senate seats, but
Do you have one time,
Sean?
Sean? You're welcome.
With the wording of the motion as it stands, there's at least some ambiguity as far as, are we taking first come, first serve and hiring from there, or are we waiting 30 days to get a pool of applicants to hire from?
I think the motion's okay because the next agenda item's the committee. So we can talk about how we want the committee to look like that and how the interview process and that sort of thing is going to go too. So I think the motion's okay.
I hear your question, and I think it's okay, honestly. I think we're in the clear.
Okay. How you all want to do it is up to you.
Is there any further discussion? Amy?
So, do we have the possibility to split the position even if we were to hire someone for the same post?
Yes. One thing that I had spoken to Shauna about briefly is like within the interviewing of like the sustainability coordinator position, that we're just very clear with people that like the job requirements they could potentially be losing, like not losing, but like the food pantry stuff could be potentially delegated to a different position, and their position would be sustainability focused. So that's, is there any further discussion? Amy? Brian?
Just as kind of a point of clarification, we do have one position that's kind of a defunct position that's still in our bylaws. It's the campus community director. And at the time, their only responsibilities were chair the council of clubs and do a open mic night. And then the council of clubs moved to basically electing their own chair from within their own, decided to elect their own chair rather than have somebody else chair for them. So their responsibilities went down to run an open mic night once a year. So we have this open position that probably either needs to be reworked or filled. And as far as I know, the only thing mentioned in the Constitution about staff is just staff. They don't specify what your roles are or anything, and the role specification is all based in the bylaws, which you guys should be able to modify just by a majority vote.
Okay. Any further discussion before we move into a vote? Okay. With that, we'll move into a vote. All those in favor of opening the Gender and Sexuality Diversity Advocate, the Multicultural Program Coordinator, the State Affairs Director, and the Sustainability Coordinator for 30 days or until filled. All those in favor? Okay. Opposed? Abstentions? Vote passes 4-0-0. With that, we'll move into item 7E of the agenda, Staff Hiring Committee. So now that our staff positions are open, we're going to want to get these positions hired in a fair and timely manner. So I'll open the floor to discussion of the potential formation of a hiring committee, what the membership of that committee might look like, and what the size of that committee might look like, etc. So I'll take stack. And I'll start. Anyone else want to jump on stack?
I can hop in there.
Okay. Want to jump on Bill? Okay. You want to get on there?
I will just.
Okay. So I think the hiring committee should definitely have executives on it, should definitely have the chief of staff on it, and should definitely have a senator on it and a staff member, I think. That's, I think that would be the best membership. Because you definitely want the chief of staff on there because they're going to be the boss of these people. You're definitely going to want the executives on there because they're also the boss of the people. You're going to want a senator on there just for accountability, and you're going to want staff on there because the staffers are staff members and they know what it means to be a staff member, and I would see value in having a staff member on there. So that's like kind of my ideas for membership. So I would say president, chief of staff, vice president, one Senate member, and one staffer. What do y'all think about membership? Do you see the value in having others on there? Do you see the value of having an advisor on there? Do you see, or do you think that membership sounds okay? What do y'all think? Or, sorry, I'm sorry, I had stacks, I'm going to go to Diego first.
I don't want to take away from your discussion, so I can hop behind Michael.
Okay, Michael.
I was curious, the pros and cons with having both the vice president and the president on the committee, as opposed to just having one or the other, or just a member of the executive branch on the committee.
Yeah, I mean, I think if as long as one's on there, I think that's chill.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
All this is the word moot. All this is moot. 4.2 of the bylaws gives the president the power to create a committee of at least one executive committee member and at least 2 senators in order to appoint the executive staff team, and then the Senate approves. So you've got the power. I guess, you know, great, clear. This is a great discussion, but I guess the discussion could actually more just be which senators at this point, because I mean, you have the liberty to do what you will as president according to our bylaws.
Can I see that real quick?
Yeah, of course.
Thanks.
Sorry. agreements.
Yeah, I was reading this last night, but I gotta reread it. So what is your thinking on that?
I mean, if you want to do what you suggested, that's fine. It's.
Are you saying like there may not even need to be a committee?
No, I'm saying that you have the power to make the committee.
Or that the committee just doesn't even need a motion? Is that
Right, yeah, he doesn't need a motion, doesn't have to come to the Senate. You've got the power.
I mean, do you think like the formation of this committee is just gonna be something that, and like this discussion is gonna it's just something that's wasting time and we should just do this? Cause like,
As much as
I'm fine with that, but I just wanted to get input from y'all.
As much as I'm a fan of bureaucratic fun, I do believe it would slow down the process.
Michael, or Amy?
What you mentioned is really true. But at the same time, you can just go ahead and do, just suggested, which is a good idea, having a member of the executive, the chief of staff, and a senator, if no one has anything against it.
I yield my time to Ryan.
This is gonna be a bit off from the way things are usually done, but it's something that has occurred to me in the past, particularly concerning the multicultural program coordinator and the GSDA. Nothing says that the hiring committees for each of these positions have to be the same people, and I was wondering how the Senate would think about reaching out to the various unions to get a representative from the union onto the hiring committee, because they are basically going to be some of the people who are working the most closely with these positions. So the idea of having a representative from the Multicultural Center, a representative from the Gender Equity Center on the hiring for the GSDA, or you get where I'm going with this, would be a good way to kind of reach out to other areas of the college and give them kind of a voice in the staffer that they're going to be working with.
I may have a solution to all of this. Since we're discussing it right now, we can go ahead and approve the forming of hiring committees pursuant to 4.2, giving the power to the president to appoint those positions, the people that will sit on those committees. That way it's gone through us and you're still free to put whatever you want on those committees. The only stipulation here is just, the word is at least. So it doesn't have to be just this, it's just at least one person from the executive team and at least 2 senators. As for however many, it doesn't.
And I appreciate you bringing that up. That's an excellent, excellent idea. So any further discussion, motions?
All right. Wordsmithing is tough, right? So I move to form a hiring committee for the positions that were just opened, to be led by the president in pursuance to our bylaws. Period.
Okay. So there's been a motion made by Diego for the formation of a hiring committee for our open positions, chaired by the president and pursuant to our bylaws. Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Okay, seconded. So we'll start with discussion from the maker of the motion.
And just so we're all on the same page, my understanding is what that will do is you have the ability to create the committee, which includes at least 1 executive member and at least 2 senators. But as for the suggestion that Ryan made, if we were to have done it officially through official channels, every single one of those committees would need to be formed and then people named, and I think this clears up the headache of being able to pull those in and out as needed. It does mean that you have a little more discretion, but we already talked about this. We're being extremely transparent with everything we do, so I think it'll be great.
And a second?
I think that the motion itself is specific enough, but also unspecific enough to allow you to do what you need to do to make sure that we get good quality staff in our government.
Awesome. Any further discussion? Okay, with that, we'll move into a vote. All those in favor of forming a hiring committee for our open staff positions chaired by the president and pursuant to our bylaws? All those in favor? Okay, opposed? Abstentions? Vote passes 4-0-0. Super excited to get some new people in here and get that committee formed very soon. With that, we'll move into item 8 of the agenda, reports. It is highly encouraged that all senators and staff members give a report weekly. These reports are really important for keeping our organization, our efforts as transparent as possible and opening the line of communication between student government members and the student government and the students at large that we represent. So each person giving a report will be given a maximum of 3 minutes for reports, and we'll start with 8A, the presidential report. So hi everyone, my name is Nick Pio. I am the president and my pronouns are he, him, his. Oh gosh, I've been working on a lot. I worked on a lot over the winter break and really worked on the food pantry with our past sustainability coordinator Jesse, and we got holiday food boxes out to people the day before Christmas. And I was working on the student activity fee committee over break with Gabby and Wilgan and Lida a little bit, trying to get that on track so we can assure that those student monies are allocated properly. I've been working on social media and website work with Macy. I've been working on adjusting to this role. I've been working, yesterday went to a tour of Food for Lane County, and we are working on providing better services in our food pantry. So we're currently doing like a scale back, and we'll be closed next week, and we'll have a reopening week 4, and we'll have more consistent hours starting then. Our coat drive has been going on, it'll end the 24th, or the 26th, and it's been going really well. We've gotten over 40 jackets, which is amazing. Also, last week we did Welcome Week. We're giving out free coffee, tea, and snacks to students. Thank you everyone for showing up and helping out with that. I really appreciated that, and I know the students did too. Oh gosh. There's just so much more, and I'll definitely have a more concise and clear report starting next week. But just for the meantime, I'll just talk about my goals a little bit, that sort of thing. So, coming into this role, I definitely acknowledge that there's limitations due to time. Coming into this role halfway into the year, so I know I'm not going to be able to complete everything I'd ever wish to do, but I'm going to try my best. And one of my biggest priorities is just going to be setting up the next student government with an effective, well-oiled machine of an organization. I don't think that's something that's been happening in between student government organizations for a long time, and I think there's been a huge disconnect and a kind of starting over of organizations at the start of each term, and I just don't think it's constructive for the students at large. So one of my biggest priorities is going to be getting a staff in place and just making sure we leave our successors with something that they can really continue good work with. My other priorities as president are going to be bridging the gap between student government and non-student governmental groups like our unions and clubs, improving the relationship with the college administration, improving visibility for student government, leadership development within the Senate and staff and my team, and just a lot more. So I have a lot planned, and I'm super excited to get to work, and we're going to take it one thing at a time and work as a team, and we're going to continue moving forward and get in line with the Constitution. And I'm really proud of you all for sticking it out through everything that we've been through, and I'm excited for what's to come. So I'll leave it at that, and we'll move into 8. We're going to skip 8B. Do you want to report?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
so.
We're going to do a vice president report. I didn't know, I'm putting Amadeo on the spot a little bit, but
That's right.
he's got it.
So I actually have been doing some stuff this week, and it's not really going to count towards a lot of my hours this week. This will be my first vice presidential hours, but I was working with one of the senators, actually. We are going to start up a committee that has been sorely missed on this campus, the Inclusive College Committee, and we're going to start actively working towards representing disabled students in a more tangible way, as well as turning our focus towards representing students of color and LGBT students in a way that was really near and dear towards our hearts. We talked a little bit about IC last year, and I thought it was a really good way to sort of turn Alma's focus a little bit, and last night we really got pumped about it. So besides really this week improving my Tetris scores, which I did, I'm a Tetris pro now, I've been really focusing on IC. Other than that, I've been talking to a lot of student groups, actually. I've been talking to some members of SPA, one, but I'm going to talk to more members of SPA. And I'm going to try to reach out to some unions and let them know that I'm back here for the rest of the term. I'm going to go over to the Gender Equity Center and speak to Marcy and just let them know that student government is going to be taking some better steps the rest of this year. I want to address some things, though, in this vice presidential report, and I just want to say that we tiptoe a lot, as we're supposed to, be leaders. And part of being leaders is just really accepting when we've messed up. But, you all really didn't mess up, okay? I really want to be clear. You all really didn't mess up. We were really let down by the team that took us into this year. And, yes, we've all made our individual mistakes. I've made my mistakes. I didn't do my job to the full extent that I wanted to last term. And I'm sure all of you had your pickups and things that you could have done better. But I do think it is important to recognize that the school could have done better to support us. And yes, our executive team did not do good at supporting us. But I am confident that Nick Keogh and I will do better at supporting you, and that you will feel confident and hopefully have the trust to communicate with us. And hopefully the students will feel emboldened enough to reach out to us and to the vast amount of resources to let us know and let other places know when we're not doing enough to support them. I think that this term and the rest of these terms will be filled with positive notes and actual change on this campus. I just think it's important to say the real things, that things did not go well, actually, and there were people who didn't do the right thing. And that's important to say. It's hot water, things didn't go so well. No, things were bad. And that's okay. That's okay to say. We're going to do better, and I'm excited for that. And you should all be, because you're all great. You're going to do great things. I'm excited to be here. That's my vice presidential report. I see sunny weather.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that sentiment. With that, we'll move into 8C Senate reports. We'll start with Michael, the pro tempore, and then I'll take a stack after that.
Hello again, everyone. My name is Michael Gillette. I am a senator. I'm your senator. I'm now also your pro tempore for these Senate meetings. My pronouns are he, him, his. These past weeks, I've switched from having a seat in the College Council to being a part of the Learning Council. This came about from my class schedule as a student. However, I also see the many possible advantages of participating in this other council and the feedback and participation I can provide in this council, which will benefit the students on campus. I have been helping the reset and restructuring of the rainy day food pantry, and I know that the end result will provide the students of LCC with a resource that is both beneficial but also consistently available and accessible to them. Our goal is quality over quantity and ensuring the best possible opportunity for students to have access to this valuable resource here on campus. I want to mention that we have a speech club here on campus that is being organized, but they need more people to be involved to make it official. So if you are interested in public speaking, I know that's not a very common topic for anybody, and want the chance to let your voice be heard regarding the issues you want to talk about, we are all a great and diverse group striving to help one another improve. Also, I want to use this opportunity to emphasize that we are in great need of senators. Anyone in the gallery that is interested in being a part of the student government, I strongly encourage you to come to our room and submit a petition to join. I want to see and hear as many different perspectives as possible.
Awesome. Let's just go in order. Did you have a report?
I didn't write anything.
That's great.
So
That's great.
I feel unprepared.
No worries. And your report?
I do. So over the break, it was a long one at that, I got to meet with several different political science students. There was a group of individuals I hung out with. We went and chopped down a tree and decorated it. Something you have to do once we're adulting now. You gotta go out and do these things for yourself. They don't just appear. Anyways, this group was from Oregon State University and University of Oregon, two of them. And I got a little bit of perspective from the way things work over there. And believe it or not, our last term is pretty common other places as well. In fact, it gets a little more heated even so, where there's actual yelling going on constantly. I think there was a little scuffle between you and I, but we're buddies now. And, but anyways, over the coming weeks, eventually here our terms will start to smooth out, or rather our class schedules, and there's a committee being headed by Shauna that is governing governing documents, and I'll be giving my input in there from what I learned from these other schools' perspectives, and hopefully we can make it as best as it can be. I know it'll never be flawless, but hopefully the goal will be smooth, a well-oiled machine for future generations to come. Beyond that, I am happy to be back. I have a little more to talk about on the governance councils, but I'll do that in the governance council section. However, I will plug this, as Michael did. We do need senators. We need them for many reasons to get back to our constitutional obligations, but also we need the diverse outlooks. We need perspectives from other than just us. And we are actually quite diverse, believe it or not. If I were to give you specifics, you'd go, oh wow. But nevertheless, we do need more diversity. And on that, I also wanted to mention, if you have even the slightest inclination, or someone you know wants to be part of this, and you need help with the nitty-gritty, how this is going to work with school, come and find us in the student government building. It's office rather. It's room 201 of building 1. And if I'm there, I will help you with every little detail, and I'm sure anyone else would as well. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Amy, did you have a report?
Just wanted to say that I had a good break for this winter, and the beginning of this term has been really hard on me, particularly with my class load. I've been really slow with the student government. I didn't have enough time to really get involved in the different activities as I want. But I just need some time to get into a certain routine so that I can match my class schedule, work, student, and everything else. So, but this week I had the chance to attend a conference. It was in the Center for Meeting and Learning, and the guest was Bakari Seller, and I really enjoyed it. I feel like I still have a lot to learn, both from African American and other people, if I can put it in that way. So, yeah, and I would like to encourage you to come to our next Senate meeting, which is going to be on January 24th in Building 3, room 2016. So that's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you. With that, we'll move into 8D, staff reports. I'll take staff for staff reports. Shauna, Ryan, Michaela. All right, Charlie, you want to start off?
Yeah, I've got actually a staff report that Amanda submitted as well, the closing stash. She's sick. Hers is pretty brief. She has a clothing stash running like a well-oiled machine. There's a couple of hang-ups that she plans to have ironed out by next week, and she's just continuing silently doing her job, just like I would ask her to do, except I never have to. So she did great. She also wanted to voice her congratulations to Amadeo on your appointment and your application. And that was a if it happened kind of thing. So it happened. You got your congratulations. And that's the extent of the clothing stash director position report. For the chief of staff, myself, first and foremost, we have the governing documents committee, which is this week is canceled. We are in a phase of trying to get an idea of who is able to do it, when they can attend, and we have doodle poll pending, so I can determine exactly when interested members of our student government want to be there, when they can make it, and I'll reschedule according to the results of that poll. I have had a bit of a busy week, surprisingly. A lot of the work done as student government was in the hiring committee for our director that is going to be serving as our advisor for not only student government, but for the council of clubs as well as for the recreational sports departments. So we're in the home stretch of that hiring, and hopefully we won't be as much of a rudderless ship as we have been the last several terms. So we'll have some continued oversight once that finalizes. The chief of staff work itself, just hammering down on hours, making sure everybody's getting compensated for the work they're doing here, which is, the deadline is coming up on Sunday, so we're all on the same page. And that's all I've got for my report.
As far as it's, I mean, we're coming off of a big break, so basically what I've been doing is reading various governing documents until my eyes bleed, and I can't possibly stand it anymore. I just got back from Finance Council right before this meeting, and I've got some more to talk about regarding that, but by and large, that is what I have been doing, is combing through bylaws and constitutions and seeing where they compare to ours and what seems to be good versus what would not work here.
And Michaela?
Hi, I'm Michaela Brennan. I'm the Snack Shack director. My pronouns are she, her, hers. Snack Shack is running like usual, but Nick and I created an Instagram for the Snack Shack, so everyone should go follow that. It's Lane Snack Shack, and there's a survey on there that we want you to take, because it's asking about like dietary restrictions, what you'd like to see, if you think we're fun, things like that. And other than that, I'm going to be ordering plastic water bottles, because since we're not allowed to sell bottles of water, I'm going to sell empty bottles that people can fill themselves, so I don't have to say, here's a soda instead. And other than that, it's running really smooth. Rocking Snack Shack.
Thank you for all your work and all the stuff as well. With that, we'll move into 8E, advisor report. We don't have this person yet, but Liz, do you want to do any kind of report?
Just to touch on things we've already talked about, Nick and I went to the full orientation and training at Food for Lane County yesterday and met Nathan, our future mentor. That's how I call him. I think we came away with a lot more questions, so we'll be working with him. And they fully support our reset of the food pantry. One thing that started this term that many people here don't realize happened, Dan had, when I first started here, Dan had expressed an interest of having a school supply station for students. And that started on the first day of this term. It's a small bookshelf outside of the Student Life building. This is in partnership with Recycling and Surplus. People are already starting to donate to it. It will grow, but Surplus has been looking for a place to provide materials to students. These are items that have been pre-owned, pre-loved, but we have lots of them. So that's an accomplishment for student government, even though it was just sort of working in the background. The other thing to note that just developed yesterday morning, and I've been talking to Amanda tonight about, tomorrow I am going out to Springfield to assess a lot of clothing. We were contacted by a member of the Rotary Club to join in with, be one of 30 nonprofits to grab new and free clothing for our students. And so the viewings and selections have already started happening. And the first step was while we were at Food for Lane County, Nick. So I'm going tomorrow, and I'll drag a work study along with me or two because they know what I need. So hopefully this will be another partnership to support students.
Thank you, Liz, and thank you for your work in the office over the break, organizing it and whatnot. That was huge help and huge relief to us all, so I appreciate that. With that, we'll move into 8F of the agenda, Governance Council reports. I'll take stack for Governance Councils. Ryan, Diego, I'll jump on. Did anyone else attend a Governance Council since our last meeting a month ago? Okay, sounds good. Oh, one of them. Okay, so we'll start with Ryan and then go to Diego.
So it just came out of Finance Council an hour before this meeting started. And a lot of the work's being done by a subcommittee. It's basically collating data so that there is a long-term trends available for people to make decisions, and so that we have the best data for suggestions for the long-term financial health of the college. But there's going to be a report to College Council regarding the strengths and weaknesses. I assume that every council was asked this, but Finance Council in particular was asked to talk about the strengths and weaknesses of the council system and that council in particular. And one of the things I brought up was that there were certain councils on campus that require or involve a very high level of expertise in various things, and it would be useful from the student's perspective for them to come with a calibration of kind of our role as a student and a list of the things that we should be familiar with so that we can be informed of what they're talking about, basically. Just very specific, this council would be good for somebody who's pursuing a business degree, and this council would be good for somebody who's pursuing an early childhood education degree, and things like that. Not as like a requirement, but to inform student government specifically when they go to do appointments, where to look for people who can do the best representation of students rather than spending their time trying to catch up to what's being talked about. And one of the big things about the Finance Council is there's a lot of very focused financial expertise in it. People with a lot of degrees. And I guess it's not really a secret, but the enterprise funds, we talked a lot about that, Titan Store, food services, CML, and how they are really struggling right now. And I assume that at some point a recommendation is going to come out of that council regarding what, how to get them healthy or what to replace them with in the future.
To you.
I sat on College Council most recently. There were 2 over the break, and I did not make the first one. I was out of town. But, nevertheless, here's a report. This is from earlier this week. College Council is, just for starters, since there are so many people in here that are interested in joining and what these councils are, this is great. Senate meetings are great. Our little student government is great. But the reality is, if you want to make change in the school, it's going to go through a council of some form. And that's where we really get to put our influence, our input as students. So if you enjoy that atmosphere, more reason to join student government. And College Council is in the hierarchy of the school's governance. There's the Board of Education way up here, which many of you may have been there last week. And then directly below that is the College Council. And then from there is a tree of councils, which includes Finance Council, Tech Council, Student Affairs, all sorts of councils in there. And again, that's where policies are changed. So like a policy, for example, now being more relevant, the policy that we were discussing in College Council is a drone policy. We're in 2019, we're in the future, and apparently we now need to have a policy in place for drones. We have a drone program here, and all the nitty-gritty of when are students allowed, do they have their own insurance, do we give them insurance, all that kind of stuff is discussed, and that's what we just talked about in our college council. No decision was made. We are taking a second draft look at the actual policy, but that was one of the major topics. We probably spent about an hour discussing that. Even had an expert come in and give his input. Really interesting stuff. Another big proponent is the COPS review. So this is happening in every council right now, and all of the COPS, by the way, is all caps, C-O-P-P-S. It's the College Online Procedures and Policies, College Operating Procedures and Policies. And in there is policy on us. We are the student government, and in there we'll find ourselves filed and a little tidbit on what our mandate is. And at the moment, a lot of them are outdated, haven't been touched since 2004 or even later. So we're currently, all the councils are going through that, including college council. And we talk about our efficacy, if what we're doing is right and wrong, and something that you brought up also came up in our meeting, and that is orientation. How do you get someone up to speed when they join one of these groups? Is that being done well enough? So we talked about that. A lot of talking. And I was asked to mention this. There are some save the dates that are relevant to everybody that wants to go. They're open forums. On January 22nd, the 29th, and the 6th are upcoming College Council specific open forums. And I'll give this to our communications director, and hopefully they'll be posted somewhere. But they are going to be places for President Hamilton's undertaking of assessing Lane's governance system. You may give your input. Let her know how you feel about the governance system, if you even know about it. And it's going to be covering self-evaluation, how the data is used, and what to keep and what to change. So if you want to do that, that's there. And I think I have one other thing to bring up. Oh, and it was requested by Jessica Alvarado, the chair of our council, that we give an updated list of our new emails. And also, she mentioned the subcommittee that I think you were sitting on.
Budget development subcommittee?
I think Liz did that.
That's taken care of?
I have a group-wise address book that I maintain, so just give me the list of people who need access to that, and I will share it with them. So right now, Donna Smolik in the President's Office, Brett Rowlett, and Lida all have access to that, and I'm more than willing to share it with others.
Perfect.
And that way I don't have to keep sending out a spreadsheet that becomes outdated quickly.
Yeah, that'll definitely be the easiest way to get to them,
Yeah.
besides our website.
I'll end it with
So,
the president of our school, Margaret Hamilton, Dr. Margaret Hamilton. She made a note. She said that they really like students being a part of the governance councils. They really desire that input, no matter how big or small the council is, the subcommittees, the committees, whatever they are. It's something that they desire and that they need, and they're very happy with last time we filled all the positions, and we should get back on that and do it again.
Thank you. I sit on the Student Affairs Governance Council. So yeah, as Diego said, like all the councils are going through like a review of old policies, which mostly they start back in 2004 is like when a lot of them were last updated. So we're like going chronologically from the oldest to the newest, updating those policies. And the one that I've been working on specifically is the student government COPS policy that Diego also brought up. So I've been working on that, and I sent that out to everyone like a few weeks ago, and there were some edits made on there, and this council doesn't meet until next month again, so I have a lot of time to like get some more input from y'all and edit that document. I'm working with Lida on that a little bit. Other policies we've been looking at is the student travel policy, yeah, that's pretty much it. It's been pretty slow. Our governance council only meets once a month compared to the other governance councils, which meet bi-monthly usually, or twice a month. So yeah, that's kind of it for state of student affairs governance council. Shauna, I you next.
I sit on the Technology Council, and We had 2 meetings scheduled, one of which was canceled. So the longer ago, 3.5 weeks ago, maybe longer, was the subcommittee for CUPS policy updates. Nothing was specifically of interest to anybody, including myself. It was mostly just updating wording, most likely based on questions they had in the past. And I'm contributing a student perspective on it, but there's not a lot of interest in in some of these policies for the Tech Council. So that was pretty basic. To Diego's, just feedback on Diego's play to get more people interested in these. It's my understanding of our appointments that we don't need to appoint student governing people. So if you are liking the sound of this, you want to be involved, and you're a student who maybe can't commit the time to student government, but you want to be involved in making policies and helping us help them change that in light of students, come to Nick, come to anybody in the student government and say, look, I don't want to be in the student government, I've got time for it, or whatever you want to say, but you want to be on the councils, and we need people to appoint, we want to be looking for people who are interested.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you everyone for your governance council reports, and I look forward to refilling all those seats again. And thank you for mentioning that as well. These governance councils are open to students at large, so you don't have to be like in student government to sit on these councils. So yeah, if you're interested in that, please stop by our office, or yeah, please stop by our office. Okay.
Or email Nick too.
Or email or the communications director. So yeah, any further governance council reports? Okay. With that, we'll move into 8G, OSA report. Hello, Gabby.
Hello, everyone. I'm tracking. I can see the rest of the gallery. Hi, everyone. So my name is Gabby. I use they and theirs. I'm the OSA campus organizer. Some exciting things. I have been scheduling / going to like student union meetings, which has been really great to like both meet them and then also share like some of the like exciting things coming up for the legislative session. And then also transition into my second thing that I've been doing is making them aware that they're going to need to do their budget proposals soon that were originally due December 15th. Which has been a bit of a frustrating process for everyone to figure out like when they need to have their budgets due. So I've been kind of like the liaison to communicate to everyone like when and where and how the decisions are being made to expedite the process. So that's also been great. And then for NWSLC, so I've been helping with like the budget proposals for that, so you all looked at that. So I think it would be good for me to maybe just review that really quickly. I think with just like some of the questions that came up, most of them were answered, except for the food budget. I did want to mention that the conference does cover food, but like when we went to OSOC, we ran into a situation where the night that people showed up for the hotels, they didn't actually have food. And there were students who didn't really budget for having a meal on their own. So I like snagged a pizza out of the board meeting, which was great. So they had pizza, but in order to not run into those situations, that's why I wanted to include that. And then also in terms of accountability, making people show up, the other word that I just want to remind everyone is recruitment. That is really crucial, and the recruitment for OSOC was a lot more shaky and not as structured. And so at least like my ideal recruitment plan is to make sure that not only there's a list of people that say yes, but there also is like an active waiting list, so that if people do, like, I mean, you always have to account for a flake-out rate, so you want to make sure that you have people that are on standby that might still want to go, and then we can fill those spots as the flake-out rate inevitably will happen. And then also making sure that people are meeting in like delegation prep meetings with like the hopeful delegation leader that might be hired soon. And so yeah, I just wanted to add that. And then also just building the legislative campaigns. So I've been meeting with students to talk to them about what they care about and what sort of like legislative concepts and potential bills are starting to come out. The legislative session starts January 22nd. The like proposed language for bills, I'm pretty sure is due February 14th-ish. might be wrong on that, but it's like early to mid-February. And so the chambers are going to be scheduling meetings to have hearings for these bills. And the deadline for that is March 29th, and then April 9th is the deadline for those meetings to happen. And so if anybody wants to show up and testify for a bill that they feel passionate about, please get in contact with me so I can help support you to going to the Capitol to actually meet with legislators. And so my email is Gabby, Gaby, at orstudents.org. So yeah, other than that, yeah, just going with the flow of that. So I think that's it.
So thank you for all your work and the support you've been providing. With that, we'll move into 8H Osprey report. I don't see Julie Sorrells here, but she will be here consistently giving reports, and I've been meeting with her consistently, so I'm excited to have her around as well. With that, we'll move into item 9, the agenda items for next week. So there will be an NWSLC second look. Is there anything else y'all want to see on the agenda? And of course, we can talk about this at work session and we'll get things on. Yep.
I think we should have a discussion about the splitting of the staff position for sustainability coordinator into a food pantry specific coordinator. And also the potential for having the Student Nurses Association funds requests that may show up once they have senator backing.
Okay. Anyone else got anything? And if you think of things, just tell me in work session or shoot me an email. Okay. With that, we'll move into item 10 of the agenda, time and place for our next meeting. Our next meeting will be January 24th, 2019, from 4 to 6 p.m. in Building 3, the boardroom. So we hope to see you all there. And then with that, oh, and then just the last few things. On January 23rd, there will be a resource fair happening in the Hoagland Commons, and ASLCC has 2 tables for that, I believe, and that's going to be from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. So one table will be for the ASLC student government, and the other table will be for the clothing stash and food pantry. So we're really going to want to show up there, and especially since we're like really focused on recruitment right now, that's a really good place for us to be more visible and potential members. And with that, I'll move into item 11 of the agenda, adjournment. I will open the floor to any motions.
So the next meeting, is it the 24th? Is it on 24th or 29th?
It is the 24th, so next Thursday. And we have these nifty meeting schedules for all meetings for the rest of the year. So this is just a rough guide. Some of these meetings may not happen, more meetings may happen, like emergency meetings. So this is just kind of a rough guide for you all, and I'll be putting this up on our website and our social media as well. So yes, our next meeting will be January 24th in 1 week. Is there any motions for adjournment?
I move to adjourn our meeting.
There's been a motion to adjourn made by Michael. Is there a second? Seconded by Amy. We'll start with discussion on the motion. Amy.
Actually, I wanted to vote against this motion, but as a second, let's vote now.
Okay, and then further discussion? I just wanted to say thank you everyone for being here. This is absolutely by far one of our best meetings we've had this year. And there's this like also I think maybe some of the biggest turnout we've had, and I see a lot of familiar faces in the gallery that I know are interested in like potentially becoming senators or the staff members, and I thank you all for being here, and I hope that we can get working with you all soon. So thank you everyone for being here. This has been amazing. With that, we'll move into a vote. All those in favor of adjournment? Opposed? Abstentions? Vote passes 4-0-0. We are adjourned. Everyone, thank you for being here.